everything and to make sure that he doesn't forget something. So these are two advantages that you immediately, it's non-verbal, but you immediately give the impression to the interviewer that you are someone of this nature. So carry a small notebook and a pen is a must with you. Always leave early to arrive at least 10 to 15 minutes, we all know, before the interview is scheduled. One of the worst things you can do is to arrive late for an interview. And a lot of times, if you arrive after a certain period of time, they might not even allow you to go for the interview, So keep that in mind. This might be your only chance to go get the job. And if you lose it just because you left, you didn't leave on time, that will be very negative. Now, the fourth point is when you reach the interview site, introduce yourself to the first person that you meet, which will be the greeter or the receptionist. Clearly tell your name and why you are there. There might be other people there for other work. So do not assume that he or she who is there at the reception will understand that you have come for an interview. So clearly state your name. Hello, good morning, good afternoon. My name is Nadeem, and I'm here for the interview of this position. So that person knows already that what you are here for, and they will guide you accordingly. Excuse me again. It is good to, if you have the time before the interview, it is good to have a visit to the restroom, to have a look, final look at yourself in the mirror before you go in. Because on the way to the interview, I don't know, you might have, come across different situations, and you might need to give a final touch to your look before you go, because you need to look very professional and very smart when you go inside the room. One important tip for people, which you will not normally get from people, which I will tell you from my personal experience, is while you're waiting for the interview, let's say you are at the reception and they tell you have to wait for some time, half an hour. Very important. I advise people to stop repeating the answers in their mind at that time. Just forget about everything and focus on your confidence at this time. Because if you keep repeating the answers and the questions in your mind at this time, you might face a situation that when you go inside the interview room, you might go blank. This is human psychology. So my advice is do not keep repeating the answers and the questions in your mind at this time. Whatever preparation you have done so far will benefit you. If you have not prepared well, that's to your disadvantage. But whatever preparation you have done so far will come in handy, but stop thinking, stop over preparing yourself. So that's one very important advice. Now, they call you for the interview, and the fifth point that we move to is it's your turn to go inside. It's the moment of truth for you. So just be confident, take a deep breath and go inside. Greet the interviewer or the panel if there is more than one person with a smile and with proper eye contact. Make sure to look at the people rather than the environment or the walls or the light. So you're supposed to just walk in, greet the people, good evening, good morning, or good afternoon, and look at them directly. That will show them your confidence. So when you talk to someone looking at them directly, it shows that you have confidence in what you're saying. And once they ask you to be seated, you should be seated. During the whole interview, one important point which I found, there were, Mr. Muhammad, a lot of times there were very good candidates that we used to have. They had prepared very well, but they had one thing very negative while answering, was that they would avoid eye contact and they would look here and there. Now, for a customer service position, we thought this is something very negative. Because imagine if this person is working for Emirates Airline and he has a passenger in front of him and he is doing everything possible to help the passenger, but he's looking around here and there. That will give a very bad impression to the customer or to the person. And even anyone, even if your colleague is talking to you, if you don't look at that person directly, it gives a very negative impression. So during your complete interview, maintain your eye contact with the interviewer or with the whole panel. If there is three people, one is asking you the question, and I will give you an example. If one of them is asking you the question, so start by looking at that person, start your answer by looking at that person. And as you continue answering, you can, a few seconds, look at the others and come back to that person. Your eyes, I'm talking about the eye movement and the eye contact. So this is how you're supposed to uh, maintain the eye contact. Start and finish with the person who's asked the question, and move your eyes to the other people to acknowledge their presence. Because if you totally look at that one person, it's like you are not acknowledging that they are in the room as well. Okay, and relax during the answers. Relax by telling yourself that this is a conversation and not an examination. And it's very important to keep this in mind right from the beginning, and especially when you are in the room answering the questions. Think of this as a conversation. And another important point, Mr. Muhammad, for your viewers, if for any reasons you feel uncomfortable or nervous, it is best to tell the interviewer rather than keep suffering inside, which the interviewer will see in a few minutes. You know, the interviewer, whether it's one person or more than one person, they will judge within a few minutes that you're feeling nervous and very uncomfortable. So it's better, as soon as you feel uncomfortable or nervous, openly tell the interviewer, excuse me, but I'm a little nervous because this is my first interview, or this is an interview which is very important to me. So in giving you the answers, I'm a bit nervous. And the answer usually from them will be, that's not a problem. Would you like to have a glass of water? It's in front of you, you know, things like that. I remember we as interviewers felt very well when a candidate in front of us would openly tell us that he's nervous, rather than saying, no, I'm not nervous, and then showing nervousness. All right. So I hope this point goes clearly to your viewers. Again, I will repeat something I mentioned in the beginning. Very briefly, I will repeat. Start your first answer by thanking the panel or the interviewer. I would like to thank you for this opportunity. Okay, and another point in while doing the interview is keep your questions brief. Keep in mind that the interviewer is not only here to listen to your answers. They have been asking the same questions to other people. Once you leave, they will continue maybe asking the same questions and listening to the same answers from many other people. So don't think, for you it's most important, but don't think that your answers is the most important thing for them. The most important thing for them is to see your confidence, your level of confidence, and and your skills of communication. That is more important than listening to the actual content, unless it comes to a technical question. If I ask you a technical question, then I am interested to know if you are aware about the details of what and how this should be done. But for behavioral questions, when I tell me about your weakness, it's good I listen that your weakness is you cannot speak in front of people or public. That's good to hear, but the details I'm not so interested. So keep your answers brief. Remember and keep this in mind. And if the situation, the final point in this section, I will tell you the final point is, if the situation allows and if you think the interview has gone good enough, there could be a possibility for you to ask the interviewer for their email address. It is possible, depending on your situation, depending on how you're feeling, and depending on how casual the interview has gone. You might ask the interviewer for their email contact, or you might ask this question: can I write back to you on the same email? Can I reach you on the same email that I received the invitation from? And if the interviewer asks why, you can say, I just like to know if I can follow up with a request to ask the status of the interview or the result of the interview. I would like to follow it up by an email later at some other point. So in most cases, the interviewer might tell you his or her email address. Yes, you can write it down. So you take out your notepad and you note down the email address of the interviewer. But actually, you're going to use it for something else, which we will come to the next point. Now, this was all about how to perform during the interview. When the interview is over, when you have finished asking your questions to the interviewer and they say, all right, thank you very much. You thank the interviewers again briefly that thank you again for your time and for this opportunity, and just leave. Sometimes some people, the departing part, they talk a lot before leaving, which is not very good, because the interviewers then, their mindset is focused on the next candidate coming. Okay. After the interview is over, something very important, I will tell you from my personal experience. It is best practice to go out, and if you have the time immediately there, write down the questions you were asked and roughly the answers that you gave. I will tell you why this is important and useful. Later on, if you think I will reach home and maybe later I will write down, you might forget the questions that they asked. But since it is fresh in your mind at that time, write down those questions. And if you can remember whatever answers you gave. Why to do that? It might be that you are not successful in this interview this time. You might get a negative reply, or you might not receive any reply and not selected for this position. But you have to look forward to other interviews in future. And that is where these actual questions will help you. That is where, when you see what answers I gave,